You know that moment when someone confidently explains something that's completely wrong. And they say it like they're delivering a TED talk. And you're standing there thinking, do I correct them? Or do I just nod and let natural selection handle this? Or maybe it's subtler. You catch yourself rereading the same paragraph for the fourth time because your mind quietly wandered off. Again, no judgment. We've all been there. Here's the uncomfortable truth: intelligence rarely shows up the way we expect. It doesn't walk in wearing glasses or quoting facts, it leaks out through everyday habits. Tiny behaviors that feel normal, harmless, even relatable. And some of those habits, they're surprisingly strong signals of low intelligence, not in a cruel way, but in a psychological one. Today, we're talking about those patterns, the ones people don't question, the ones that quietly hold the mind in place. Maybe it's you, maybe it's someone close to you. Either way, by the end of this, you'll see these habits very differently. Let's start with a scene you've definitely witnessed. You're in a conversation. Someone brings up a topic: work, relationships, money, society. And within seconds, that other person locks in. They already know the answer. No curiosity, no questions, just certainty. This is the first type, the person who mistakes confidence for intelligence. They speak in absolutes. Always. Never. Everyone knows. They interrupt. They correct. They dominate the conversation. And if you gently disagree, even politely, you can feel the shift. The jaw tightens. The tone sharpens. Suddenly, it's not a discussion anymore. It's a defense. Here's the psychology behind it. Intelligence isn't about having strong opinions. It's about holding them lightly. Smart minds revise. They update. They say, I could be wrong. Low intelligence clings. Because for them, beliefs aren't tools, they're identity. So any challenge feels personal. And instead of thinking, they protect. Louder voice, stronger language, zero movement. Ironically, they often sound smart. Confident delivery can mask shallow thinking, but scratch the surface, and there's no flexibility underneath. Ask why one too many times, and the reasoning collapses into repetition or frustration. If you notice this in yourself, here's the tell: do disagreements feel like threats instead of opportunities? Do you feel the urge to win rather than understand? To dominate rather than explore? That's not intellect. That's ego trying to stay comfortable. Now let's move to a quieter habit, one that's everywhere. Picture someone scrolling, phone in hand, notifications buzzing, videos playing, music on, something always happening. They're constantly stimulated, yet somehow always bored. This is the second type, chronic mental grazing. They jump between tabs, thoughts, conversations. They half listen, half watch, half think. And when asked a question that requires reflection, real reflection, they freeze, or joke, or deflect. Silence feels unbearable, like something must fill it immediately. Why? Because intelligence requires sustained attention. Deep thinking is slow. It's uncomfortable. It demands silence and effort. And when someone trains their brain to escape boredom instantly, they never build the capacity to stay with a thought long enough to develop insight. Psychologists call this shallow processing. Information enters, but it doesn't connect. Ideas don't stick long enough to form understanding, so they know bits of everything: headlines, quotes, opinions, but very little depth. You'll hear it in how they speak: lots of references, little reasoning, strong takes, weak explanations. They sound informed, but struggle to explain why they believe what they believe. And if you've ever confidently summarized something you only skimmed, yeah, that counts. Low intelligence isn't about not knowing. It's about never staying long enough to understand. Now, let's talk about a habit that feels emotional, not intellectual. The person who is always the victim. Every failure is someone else's fault. Every problem has an external enemy. Every criticism is an attack. They tell the same stories over and over, starring themselves as the unlucky hero surrounded by incompetent people. This is the third type, externalized thinking. Here's the pattern: something goes wrong. Instead of asking, what could I have done differently? Their mind immediately looks outward: boss, system, society, bad luck. There's no self review, only blame. And psychologically, this points to low metacognition, the ability to reflect on your own thinking. Intelligent people replay situations, they analyze mistakes, they adjust behavior. Low intelligence avoids that mirror because self examination hurts. It threatens the ego, it demands responsibility, and responsibility feels heavy when you're not used to carrying it. So nothing changes. The same problems repeat, just with different people, different settings, same outcome. If you ever hear yourself saying, "This always happens to me," pause. Always? Or is there a pattern you haven't wanted to look at? Now comes a habit that often gets mistaken for being relaxed or easygoing. The person who avoids thinking altogether. They say things like, "It's not that deep," or "I don't overthink," or "I just go with the flow." Sounds peaceful, but often it's cognitive laziness disguised as calm. This fourth type drifts through life instead of deciding. They don't plan, they react. They don't analyze, they shrug. They don't question, they accept. When faced with important choices, career, money, relationships, they outsource thinking to friends, to trends, to whatever feels easiest right now. The result isn't freedom, it's dependency on circumstance. Why is this linked to low intelligence? Because intelligent minds simulate consequences. They ask, if I do this now, what happens later? They tolerate short term discomfort to avoid long term chaos. Low intelligence chooses immediate comfort every time. And here's the irony, these people often claim to be low stress, but the stress doesn't disappear. It just shows up later, louder, when consequences arrive uninvited. If reflection feels like a burden instead of a tool, that's worth noticing. Now let's be clear. Having one, or even all, of these habits doesn't mean someone is doomed. Intelligence isn't fixed. It's not a number stamped on your forehead. It's a set of skills shaped by attention, curiosity, and honesty. And skills can be trained. The real danger isn't having these patterns, it's defending them, saying, "That's just how I am." Treating stagnation like a personality trait, confusing comfort with wisdom. High intelligence isn't about being smarter than others. It's about being more honest with yourself, more curious, more willing to sit with discomfort long enough to grow. It's the ability to pause, question your instincts, and choose growth over convenience, even when no one is watching. So here's the question I'll leave you with. Which habit felt a little too familiar? Which one made you pause, or laugh, or feel exposed? And what would happen if you challenged it? Just slightly, starting today, in one small moment of awareness? If this landed for you, stay with that feeling. Share your thoughts. Stick around. Because the moment you start examining your habits, your intelligence is already doing something different.